Italian Football Podcast.
Well, let's move on to Romelu Lukaku now, because this, I mean, he's had many meme-worthy moments during his career, Romelu Lukaku. But I think there was one moment in this game. It was in the 91st minute. Inter are leading 2-1. Gosens has a throw-in by the left corner flag, the Monza corner flag in the Monza penalty area. He throws it to Lukaku. Simple control, and it come off his knee and goes straight out of play. I mean,
Dzeko's laughing.
The camera goes to Dzeko, who's on the Inter bench, and he's absolutely pissing himself. And
that's the second time that happened this week, because Cholito Simeone, that happened against Napoli too. Cholito Simeone was rolling on the floor. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any one moment that could sum up like the worst of Lukaku's career, it was that moment. And if there was any one game that could sum up like all the bad things of Lukaku's career, it was this game. And then we were chatting after the game, was it? And I raised the question: was this the worst performance by Lukaku in his entire career?
Yes.
And I think potentially it was.
Yes, I think it was. I've never seen him be. I mean, 35 minutes where he. I don't care about the first touch. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about not winning a single ball, not being able to hold up the ball, won no duels, had no shots on goal. He didn't create a single chance. He's, it's the body language on the pitch, jogging around, running into Lautaro Martinez's way a couple of times. It was comedic. It should have been the intro to Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's what you should have been played. Those 35 minutes should just be on loop, Curb Your Enthusiasm outro. That's how it was. It was embarrassing. It was an absolute embarrassment. And the thing that drives me up the walls is how everyone at Inter is running interference and protecting this guy, saying that, he works so hard in training, he'll get it to go. I don't care how hard he works in training. It's clearly not working. Whatever he's doing is not enough. And I think that I'm sorry, but I've come to the conclusion, and I hope I'm wrong. I'll gladly raise my hand up and say I'm wrong. I was wrong. I think he's finished at the top level. I think it's obvious that he's finished at the top level. His body. I mean, if you look at how young he was when he first burst onto the scene, and if you look at his career, he's always scored goals, but he's only ever been a top-class striker, a world-class striker for 2 seasons, when he had a drill sergeant in Antonio Conte who told him when to sleep, when to wake up, when to eat, when to shit, when to piss, when to breathe, when to inhale, when to exhale. But Simone Inzaghi is not going to do that, and no one else is either. And
he would have missed the toilet if he went for a shit after this game.
Exactly. Like it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. And now again, we wake up to the news that against Napoli he complained of an inflammation of a tendon. And he's going to miss. He's got an inflammation in his knee, according to Di Marzio. He's going to miss the game against Parma. Look, his body is clearly it's not working. And I think what Jacques Talbot said when he was on our show last week, when we were all a bit taken aback. Yes, I think Saudi Arabia and the MLS is on the cards here. And because unless something drastic changes over the next 2-3 months, and I've got to be honest with you, I don't see it. I just don't see it. I see a player that is so, it's like he's peaked. I think it's another Handanovic situation. It's another De Vrij situation.
It's a big statement to make. That he's finished. I think so. He's finished.
I think he's. I'm not saying.
Finished at the highest level.
Yes, I'm saying he's finished as a world. He will never ever be a world class number 9.
Was he ever a world class number 9?
Under Antonio Conte, he was. Under Antonio Conte, those 2 seasons, he was one of the best number 9. I didn't say he was the best. He was one of the best in the world, and that's why Chelsea paid almost £100 million for him. But after that, I'm sorry. For me, I just don't see it. I don't think it's a mental issue, or it could be that as well. I mean, he doesn't seem that interested either. He looks like he's. I don't know. I just don't.
I think he is interested. I think he does want it. I just think that maybe. I mean, I raised this question at the beginning of the season, didn't I? I said,
he wants it the same way I want a six pack, but I'm not willing to work for it.
Do you remember I said it at the start of the season? And I said, "Is his body breaking down?" Yeah. I asked that question, and I said, "Well, the next few months we'll answer that question."
And I think the results are in.
So far, everything that we've seen from August till January, it does seem like his body is breaking down. And, that you look at the number of injuries, I think he's had 355 minutes of football this season. He's only scored 2 goals. One of them, only one in Serie A. One was in the Champions League they were already, was it 3 or 4 goals up against, was it Victoria Peltson?
Yeah, Victoria Peltson,
Yeah, and, so, I mean, he...
And then he got injured immediately afterwards.
Yeah, and he really has offered nothing, but he's getting so many injuries. And the problem with Lukaku is, and we've seen this throughout his career, is that he always needs kind of 4 or 5 games of 90 minutes in a row to build up his form, because he's because he's such a big guy and he's so big built. He doesn't. You can't just put him in after a period of inactivity and he just gets straight back to his best. It just doesn't work with him. And the problem with him is he can't get a run of games. He can't get a run of even 2-3 games in a row, because he just keeps getting another little injury, and now he's got this. So he's now got another injury now. That's going to set him back even further. It's going to take another 4 or 5 games, and it's just it's just a never-ending loop, really, for Lukaku.
No, it is a never-ending loop, and it's putting Inter again. This is, they keep consistently making big losing bets. They placed a big losing bet on Correa. They've placed a big losing bet on Lukaku so far, and Gosens as well. Although I think, we'll see what happens there. But because I think he's been useful this season when he's played, even though it's a peripheral role. But still, these are the big money, big marquee signings, and they've all pretty much been flops. It's 0 for 3. Yeah. And that's unacceptable when you're in Inter's financial situation, when you have that predicament. To go 0 for 3. The problem
with Lukaku right now looks short in every single area of the game. He looks horribly short technically, like as bad technically. I mean, he's always been mocked throughout his career for his poor first touch, except for a period under Conte where Conte seemed to almost cure him of that for a while, where he was actually receiving the ball with his back to goal,
because he was controlling him,
and which was a miracle really from Conte. But then as soon as he went back to Chelsea, he kind of went back to his old ways. And then now we've seen even back at Inter. I mean, his touch this season, but his touch in this game, wow, 15 touches in this game, 35 minutes, lost it 10 times. And there was one moment where he miscontrolled it twice.
Have you ever seen an elephant turn on like BBC World, like BBC Earth? That's how it looked like. Every single time he received the ball. Have you ever seen an elephant try to turn around? That's how it looked. That's how slow he looked. That's how smooth he was. It's unbelievable. It's
not just technically. It's physically. It's technically. It's physically.
It's everything.
Technically, physically, and mentally as well.
Because mentally, you say he wants it. Yeah, I'm sure he wants it. I mean, he wants it the same way I want a 6-pack, but I'm not working for it. Like it's easy to want things, but you also got to do something for it, and he's not doing it.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, actually, about not having a 6-pack, because in the game against Napoli, he actually looked. I thought he did all right against Napoli, actually, but against Napoli, he looked as ripped as I've ever seen him. He looked like he'd lost a lot of weight. He looked, he didn't look heavy, which he has done earlier on in the season. He looked like he'd obviously over Christmas he'd been working really, really hard to lose weight. Then I see him 3 days later, in the space of 3 days, he's like put on half a stone. It's like, how I was like, what is going on? How would you, I mean, I know that some people have got fast metabolism, some have got slow metabolism, but Lukaku, I mean, what is going on? What did he do in the space of 3 days?
He looked bloated, and he looked slow, and no, it was horrible.
It was like Carlo blew up the kid. I mean,
it really was like one of the. I love these 80s and 90s like movie.
I don't want to fat shame. But
it's not fat. It's not.
Yeah, we're not saying fat.
It's not fat.
We're talking about a professional footballer here, that's getting paid a hell of a lot of money, and you cannot. I'm sorry, but you cannot go from looking as ripped as hell against Napoli to 3 days later looking overweight. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
You look more bloated than I do after a 3-day bender.